Okay, so I just coined the term for it, flexible faith, but which I'm sure is not. I did. Oh, you're the first one to think of that, Eric. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying in my own taxonomy, I decided to label it flexible faith. So this thing has caused me a lot of difficult times with my wife, for example. Um, 'Cause I do have a tendency to be very to speak very strongly and passionately and convincingly in favor of one side of something, and then to, I don't know, believe something entirely different the next day, I guess. And so it's frustrating, right? It's frustrating. There's some things about which, though, I am rock fucking solid, alright? Like important things, things that really, really matter, I don't waver on. No unethical bullshit from me, alright? I want to make that clear. This methodology only works if you are trying to do the right thing, okay? And part of the critical mechanism of it is begging the question, okay? You have to beg the question for it to work. Now, what I mean by that is this. So, if I can identify before me a set of potentialities, right? Potential paths for the future. So let's say I'm going to leave my house and begin my day. And I've decided today that I have no plan. I'm just going to go around the city and see what happens. I don't know. And so I get in my car and I just start driving. Now, I might think out, as I'm driving, possible things I could do. Well, let's see. I'm heading towards the mountains. I go to Eden Canyon. I sort of play out that scenario in my mind. I go to, down Old Town Pasadena, get some coffee or whatever. I play out these various scenarios in my mind. And then at a certain point, a certain juncture, I select one potentiality and I eliminate the others. Now, for things like, what am I going to do today? Should I go to Eden Canyon and walk the dog? Should I go get coffee or whatever? There's no reason, no need to have magical thinking involved at all, right? The flexible faith mechanism serves no purpose there. You can rely entirely upon your will or impulses or whatever it is that makes that decision. Or it's some sort of reason-based calculus, whatever it is, to what's the word? To be the deciding factor in where you go and what you do. The issue comes in like big life decision things. So, and also in particular when you're pushing to do something that is against the grain, right? Like if it's you're getting pushback or resistance for a given course of action you're proposing, then that's when flexible faith comes into action. Because the problem that we each face is this. We are not active enough in our narrative construction, and we are not sophisticated enough in our narrative construction, and we don't have sufficient tools to archive and organize and make useful to us our narrative construction. So, as a consequence, when we look at these various vectors in our plane, and we can only see our own too, we can't see other people's. When we look at these various vectors coming into play, what we see is predictions that are varying degrees of likelihood. So what we're going to talk about is difficult circumstances. So the question is, how much do you trust yourself, right? This is the core question in all of life. And you have to face it every fucking day that you make a decision or try to pursue a course of action for which there is resistance. And that's going to be a lot of things. And the thing about it is this. What we need to understand is as we go through life, we're constructing who we are out of a series of short stories. Some of them parts of larger stories, some of them just totally distinct. Just a totally self-contained story. They range from I fell down and scraped my knee when I was 8, and I remember clearly this one part where I was at the hospital. That's all I really remember about it. That would be like a self-contained one, right? Or it could be a story that's not good, right? That makes you feel bad about yourself. When you either hurt someone else or allowed yourself to be treated with indignity in some fashion, and often gave in to your demons, maybe, and pursued a course of action that you wish you hadn't, for sure, and that you carry a large burden with you. This happens to everybody at some degree or another. Like the very, very top end, you got murderers, at least non-sociopathic murderers. Sociopaths wouldn't care, right? They don't feel what I'm talking about. Only decent people with morality and ethics and empathy feel what I'm talking about. So, what I'm saying is, to me, that would be like the worst thing you could do to feel bad about yourself, or maybe like accidentally kill your own kid. That would just be fucking horrific beyond all. And that's got to be the worst. I'd much rather kill someone else than accidentally kill my own kid. And I mean, I'd feel terrible about whoever it is I chose to kill, but you know, if there were that simple binary choice and there was obviously no possible way around it, I'm not gonna choose to kill my kid, right? If I had to quote unquote I don't know how I could be forced to accidentally kill my kid. It'd be impossible, but what was I talking about? Oh yeah, flexible faith. So, look, one thing is this. On the one hand, we're getting data back from other individuals, right? About what we say mostly. But what we say mostly are little snippets that fit into these slabs. So, if I say, boy, I had a tough day at work, day after day after day, I'm going to be getting a lot of feedback that says, you should quit that job. That job's no good. Blah, 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 blah. Right? And then, now you sort of have a openness vibe about you towards work. And you go out in the world and somehow some job falls in your lap. And you go, see, it was meant to be. What's the connection? Wow, shocking. And it's magical thinking. What we want to do is harness all the impacts of that without having to accept the bullshit. And so, the thing is that people always say, and I always used to say, and I believe to be true, was that you can't pretend to make yourself believe something. Right? Like, I'm an atheist. I can't pray and actually believe in God, and I wouldn't even know where to begin. Make a leap of faith. A leap from where? All these other fucking stupid-ass atheist things. Look, atheists. You're missing the fucking point. Okay? It doesn't work like that. It's not, you don't have to have faith in God. It's just that faith in God is a quick and easy way to understand it, because it's sort of already there, you know? What you really need to believe in is that you need a worldview in which negative events serve a purpose. You need purpose. That's what you need. That's what you need. You need a broader purpose. You need to believe that stuff happens for a reason. But then you need to stop. You need to analyze all the possible reasons why that might be. The crucial mechanism in this whole thing, ultimately, is objective self-criticism. If you can be objective about yourself, and you can say, okay, well, These are the various ways this could play out. What do I want? Huh. And if I don't get that, how am I going to turn that, right? Like, how am I going to make that a good thing? Surprisingly easy. But it's impossible unless you are thinking in terms of a larger purpose. Now, this purpose cannot be something like win the Nobel Prize or fucking make cheese all day. I mean, okay, that one, maybe. That one only. Only make cheese is the only one. No, but it's got to be something like my purpose is to contribute as much as I can to helping people to know better how and why they think and what and who they are, basically. So it's most obvious with kids who come to you not knowing who they are at all. No conception. No conception of what identity is, because nobody has any conception of it. Because why? Because we don't teach people to construct their own identity as part of their education, whereas that should be the only part of their education. Look, you have to tie it back to a framework. Your job is to make as sophisticated a data processing entity as possible, by which I mean not like do as much work as you can. I mean, when you go into the world and you experience things, this is data that you are processing. Why are you processing? You're processing hard truths. Into what? Meaning. Positive meaning. You're processing your suffering in the past and turning it into a mechanism by which you can help people and empathize with other people. When you have suffered deeply and other people come to you and they are not perfect and they have deep flaws, you're probably not going to judge them much. Suffering comes with one's flaws, usually. And so it's important for each of us to experience it, but, and most important, to frame it. To frame it in terms of what it taught us, in terms of what we didn't know before and why it happened, in terms of how redemption from that failure looks, and in terms of how the whole thing fits in the larger narrative of humanity's purpose, of processing experience. Essentially, the job, what is humanity? It's a machine made up of blah, 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 bugs. What's life in general, in fact, right? All the animals and everything. It's life that, it's a machine that processes reality into meaning. And on the lowest level, it processes it into meaning in animal ways, so that one animal helps another animal sometimes. There's meaning there, that without meaning that you can see and you can hear, or something like that. It's not, you don't have to write it down. It doesn't have to have any static form, right? But the capacity of life to generate significant meaning from reality's inputs is severely limited until you gain the capacity to have static symbols representing events and states of being and stuff like that, right? So that's where language comes into play. And that's why, really, the work doesn't really begin until language comes into play. And then, what it does, it goes through this long period where it has very little fluidity. So, yeah, okay, it exists, but it's not really written down. So, it can't stay the same traveling from one place to another, and it's not fungible. I think that's used correctly. I think you can use it like that as a metaphor. Obviously, it means convertible into any equal number of its form. Like, for example, I could trade you 5 quarters for your 5 quarters, my 5 quarters for your 5 quarters, but it's the same amount of quarters in the end. It's the exact same thing, doesn't make any difference. Not that quarter or this quarter, unless it's a special, like fucking collector's quarter or something. So, what else can I tell you about this? How to redeem ourselves from our failures is all about the narrative. All this data that comes in that I was talking about, it makes us doubt ourselves, unavoidably. Because, first of all, we're wrong a lot. You know, I'm wrong all the fucking time. Except I'm not wrong all the time, am I? I'm right, I don't know, half the time? The challenge that and I think this is true of everybody, probably. Most people are wrong a lot more than me. I mean, it's... Look, the normal thing to do is to engage in some sort of modesty or my opinion. It's true. It's true because I think better than I do. And I don't tolerate wrongness in myself. I'm engaged in an ongoing process of objective self-criticism. As one ought to be. As one must be if one is going to become realized. Anyway, I'm admonishing myself to remember that in this instance, right? Because that's whenever I fail, that's what happens. Is that the process of objective self-criticism breaks down, and balancing the flexible faith with the objective self-criticism is a challenge, right? They don't really fit together. They don't really reconcile with one another. But if you have an overarching framework that says true intelligence, because atheists want to believe they're the smartest people in the world, true intelligence is being able to deftly ride even conflicting frameworks, be able to maintain and execute frameworks with completely opposite rationale beneath them and completely opposite metrics of testing for validity beneath them or applicable to them. That is intelligence. Okay? So, look, atheists. I can play atheist with you. I can also play faith. And I can switch back and forth. I can code switch. Can you? Your atheism is bullshit. The God you don't believe in is not God that I believe in. The God that I believe in, he gets shit done. Alright? Not your God. Your God, you pray to him and nothing happens. My God gets shit done. Alright? Also, my God likes some people better than others. It's so obviously true that why deny it? He likes me. I don't know why. He's been very, very kind to me. And I see other people get fucked. So, man, I don't know. God's been out there looking out for me. He doesn't play fair. Definitely not. That is not a fair God. Don't ever make that mistake. But I'll tell you what he does. I think he is fair. I think what he does is this. He's a big guy. Massive, massive cock. You know, male, for sure. So anyway, God is a woman. A goddess. She has a uterus and a vagina and all those other things. So, regardless of what God is, what God is not is interventionist in a fair way. He might be interventionist, or we just might be really bad. He might be throwing us fucking lobs like this all the time, and we're just really fucking bad at hitting. I kind of think it's like that, you know? Because, of course, I want the little black starving Ethiopian kid to walk up right here and go, Mister! Yeah. Oh, it's throwing you softballs, huh? Pretty much. You're not throwing me softballs. Yeah, I tend to sort of... It doesn't really fit in my metaphysics, though. I'm sorry, I don't fit in your recipe, I'm sorry. Oh, well, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Who cares? The point is, that's the fucking point. That's not useful to believe in anyway. What? There's no reason to know anything about the God you believe in unless it's useful. That's not a framework you need to be able to master. The frameworks you need to be able to master include things such as this. If you believe in an idea, and you're pretty damn sure it's going to go, you're pretty sure it's going to fly, right? But it's kind of crazy. Like, nobody does that. No, don't do that. That kind of crazy. You got to test it. And what that means is you got to believe it with all of your heart for as long as is necessary until you get a definitive, clear resolution of the matter. So, I can give you an example. I have been pushing so hard to get this loan, and then yesterday I met with this IT guy, and he's like, "Don't get the loan because I'm going to make this happen," or whatever. And I'm like, fuck it, I guess I'm not going to get the loan. I still kind of think like all my reasons were right, and still kind of are right, but it's like, yeah. But you were just fucking screaming about that yesterday. Well, it's been tested adequately, and I discovered that, he's saying don't, and he's the one I want to pay with it, so. But I tested it, right? And people think, well, but you have to sound so certain? I don't know if people think this or not. That's what I think. I think, do you have to sound so certain? Well, the answer to that is, yeah. I don't have to sound so certain. I am that certain. I'm completely 100% certain. And totally wrong. But I have to remain certain until I determine the outcome. Most people can't do that, right? They don't have the capacity to believe or not believe at will. It's a necessary skill to practice. It doesn't just happen. You have to practice it. I learned it when I quit drinking alcohol. Alcoholism is not a rational problem. And no rational solution that I could ever come up with worked. So I had to implement a non-rational solution. And you know what? It worked. It was touch and go for like the first, 6 months or so. Maybe a little longer. Maybe a little less. I don't know. But eventually, oh, fuck. This is easy. I can do this. You gotta practice it. You gotta practice believing ridiculous fucking nonsense. Why? Because it'll show you how not ridiculous fucking nonsense it is. And the outcomes. I mean, look. It's easy. If I gotta choose between God or drunk in the gutter, take God. I mean, that doesn't pin me down at all. That has no definition I get pinned by. I can believe it to be whatever I want it to be. If I'm capable of believing. Right? So step one, atheists, is not the whole fucking I only believe conditionally, and I disbelieve things that aren't supported by good evidence as a default setting. No, that's not the way to do it. Alright? No. But I empathize. I used to be like that too. Maybe you gotta get your ass kicked. I got my ass fucking whooped all over the place, man. It was not a pretty time. You don't ever want to be an alcoholic. It's the worst possible fate you can imagine. Maybe there are a couple other bad ones, maybe something worse, but it's awful. And every day, I have no choice but to thank God that I no longer drink alcohol. Amen to that.